I still remember the way she looked at me that night. Not angry, not hurt, not even frustrated. Just done. Like I was some old sweatshirt taking up too much space in her closet. She sat on the edge of our couch, the same couch I broke my back hauling up 3 flights of stairs when we first moved into that apartment in Robinson Township, right outside Pittsburgh. I just gotten home from 12-hour shift. I smelled like insulation, dust, and copper pipe. My back was sore, my knees were stiff, and the only thing I wanted was to eat whatever leftovers were in the fridge and maybe watch half an episode of something before I passed out. But the second I opened the door, I could tell something was off. She didn't even look up from her phone. Her body language was stiff, legs crossed, arms folded tight, like she was guarding herself from something. She waited until I dropped my tool bag in the hallway to say anything. "Ryan," she started, not even using the soft voice she used to use when I'd walk in. "I think we should take a break. I feel like you're holding me back." Just like that. No fight. No discussion. Not even a warning. It was like she'd been rehearsing that line all day. I stood there frozen. I didn't say a word for maybe 10, 15 seconds. I was too stunned to even breathe right. I felt the drywall dust still on my jacket start to itch my skin, but I didn't move. I just stared at her, waiting for the punchline. It didn't come. "You feel like I'm what?" I finally asked. She sighed like I was exhausting her just by being confused. "Ryan, I need space. I feel like I'm growing. You're just standing still. Same job, same routine, same life. That same job paid every single bill in that apartment. The car note, the internet, her eyelash appointments, the groceries. She hadn't worked a full-time job since 2021, when she quit her receptionist gig to figure out what she wanted. Meanwhile, I'd been crawling under houses, fixing busted heat pumps, doing emergency jobs in snowstorms. Never once did I complain. That was my role. That was how I showed love. But to her, that was just standing still. I didn't yell. I didn't call her names. I didn't beg. That's not me. I'm a grown man. I have pride. I have dignity. So I nodded once, walked to the bedroom, pulled out my duffel bag, and started packing the basics. 3 work shirts, a hoodie, boxers, socks, my toothbrush, and a pair of jeans. She didn't say a word. Just sat there, arms folded, scrolling through her phone like she was ordering takeout. When I walked past her on my way out, she looked up just once and said, "Maybe this is for the best." I didn't respond. I got into my work truck, an old white Ford Transit with the company logo still half peeled on the side, and sat in the driver's seat for a long time. I didn't even know where to go. I wasn't about to crash on someone's couch like a teenager. I didn't want to explain anything to my parents in Greensburg. I just needed quiet. So I drove to the back of a Lowe's parking lot near Settlers Ridge. There was a row of trees that blocked the streetlight just enough to make it dark. I killed the engine, cracked the window, leaned the seat back, and tried to breathe. That night, it dropped into the 30s. I curled up in the front seat with a hoodie pulled over my head and a reflective HVAC blanket wrapped around my legs. My phone buzzed a few times, some HVAC group chat, and a Venmo notification from my buddy James, who I loaned $20 to the week before. Not a single message from her. I didn't sleep. The next morning, I brushed my teeth at a Sheetz bathroom off I-376. Changed shirts in the stall, splashed cold water on my face, and try not to look at myself in the mirror for too long. Something about seeing your own reflection when your life just imploded feels like staring into someone else's eyes. I still went to work. Replaced a water heater in someone's basement in Bethel Park. Helped wire a new thermostat in McKees Rocks. Pretended I was fine, but I wasn't. After work, I didn't go back to the apartment. I drove around aimlessly for an hour, stopped for a burger at Five Guys, sat in the parking lot, and cried. Not loud, not messy, just quiet, bitter tears, because I realized in that moment she never saw me. Not really. I was just a stable income and a predictable presence. The minute she wanted something shinier, louder, more alive, I was disposable. That second night, I slept in my truck again. Only this time, I didn't park at Lowe's. I found a quieter spot behind a church on a Tuesday. No evening service. It was dark, peaceful cold. I wrapped up tighter, shut my eyes, and forced myself to think about nothing. On the third day, I got to the shop early, and James, a guy I'd worked with for 6 years, noticed something was off. "You look like you haven't slept, man. You good?" he asked, tossing me a breakfast sandwich. I wanted to lie, say something about a busted water heater at home, but I couldn't keep it in anymore. She kicked me out, I said, staring at my boots. James didn't say a word, just nodded and waited. She said I was holding her back, just like that, told me to leave. He didn't ask questions, didn't probe. He just said, "You want to crash in my garage for a bit? I've got an old mattress and a mini fridge. It's nothing fancy, but it's warm." I paused, then nodded. That night, I slept in a garage in Crafton, surrounded by toolboxes, paint cans, and a dartboard missing half its darts. But for the first time in 3 days, I felt something close to peace. Because at least now I had a roof. I had silence. I had time to think. What hurt the most wasn't the cold nights or the smell of transmission fluid in the garage. It was realizing that the woman I gave my best years to, the woman I'd driven across states for, helped through panic attacks, brought soup when she was sick, held through funerals and birthdays, saw me as dead weight. It was the way she didn't cry, the way she didn't chase, the way she didn't even hesitate to throw me out like last week's garbage. But I made a promise to myself that night, lying on that garage mattress with a space heater buzzing near my feet. I won't go back. Not now. Not ever. She wanted to grow? Fine. So would I. Only difference is, I'd do it alone. And I'd do it the right way. The first time she reached out again was on a Tuesday night, exactly 64 days after she told me to leave. I was sitting in the back corner of a small bar on Liberty Avenue in downtown Pittsburgh. Redbeards, low ceilings, pool tables, a decent steak sandwich, and quiet enough on weeknights that you could hear yourself think. Across the table from me was Holly Barrett, an old high school classmate I hadn't seen since graduation. We'd reconnected by accident, ran into each other at a gas station on Bound Boulevard where we both reached for the same bottle of Diet Coke. We'd been talking for a few weeks. Nothing serious. Just two tired adults who'd been knocked around by life a few times and knew better than to rush into anything. Holly was a nurse, divorced, single mom, worked night shifts at Mercy Hospital. She was funny without trying, wore no makeup unless she was going to court for custody stuff, and had this calm energy about her, like she'd seen enough pain to know not to waste energy on things that didn't matter. That night, while we were sharing a plate of loaded fries, my phone buzzed. I wasn't checking it much, but I glanced down, and there it was. "Melissa, hey, how have you been?" I stared at the screen like it was a ghost, like I was staring into a portal that led back to the cold couch, the echo of "you're holding me back," and the nights sleeping in my van. Holly noticed the shift in my face. "You okay?" she asked, casually wiping ketchup from her fingers. "Yeah," I said, and flipped the phone over. Just unfinished business. She didn't press. That was one of the things I liked about her. She didn't need to dig to feel close. She just let people be. But in my mind, I couldn't stop thinking, why now? Why her? Why tonight? I didn't answer Melissa's message. Not that night. Not the next. Not even after she double-texted with. I've been thinking a lot lately. Maybe we were just in a bad phase. A bad phase? Is that what she called tossing me out like I was a worn-out recliner? A phase? You don't kick someone out of their own home. Someone who loved you, built with you, fed you, shielded you from life, and then call it a bad phase when you see them smiling with someone else. A week later, she showed up at my job. I was working on an HVAC unit at a 2-bedroom apartment complex in Green Tree. I just finished soldering a copper elbow joint when I turned around and saw her standing at the edge of the sidewalk in a black trench coat, arms crossed, sunglasses on even though it was overcast. I froze, not in fear, not in anger, just in disbelief. She looked like a stranger dressed in her body. The makeup was heavier, the hair straighter, but the eyes, they were searching. I stepped off the ladder and walked over. "What are you doing here?" I asked flatly, wiping my hands on my work towel. I don't know. I saw you post that picture with her." Her. She couldn't even say Holly's name. I didn't respond. Melissa stepped a little closer. "You look good. Different." I raised an eyebrow. That's what happens when you sleep indoors and eat real food again. She winced. "Ryan, I know I messed up, okay?" I was confused. I thought I needed space, but no. I cut her off, keeping my tone calm. You didn't want space. You wanted freedom without responsibility. You wanted to play grown-up with none of the bills and none of the consequences. You didn't ask for space. You asked me to disappear so you could pretend I never mattered. Silence. She blinked hard, looked away, then said, I never thought you'd move on so fast. That was it. That was the real reason she was here. Not regret. Not love. Not accountability. She saw someone else sitting in the seat she left empty, and now she wanted it back. Over the next few days, she kept trying. A voice note at 1:13 a.m. saying she missed the way I used to hold her after a long day. A throwback pic of us at the lake from 2020 with the caption, some people never really leave your heart. A random Venmo request for $10 with the description, for old time's sake, clinking beer mugs. Some weird attempt at a joke or nostalgia bait. I didn't engage. She was digging for something that no longer existed. One evening, I sat on the floor of James's garage apartment, now cleaned up and feeling more like a studio than a storage unit, and I thought hard about why this all hurt less than it should have. The truth? Because I was done bleeding for people who never once bandaged me. Melissa didn't miss me. She missed the security. She missed being able to ignore life's problems while I handled them behind the scenes. She missed the silence of my loyalty, the comfort of my reliability. She didn't miss my soul. She missed her convenience. Then came the guilt bomb. She texted, out of nowhere, you know my mom's been sick, right? You really think this is the time to abandon me? I stared at the screen, and I finally replied, you abandoned me when I had nowhere to sleep, and you didn't even ask if I was alive. You don't get to call this abandonment. This is just me moving forward. That week, Holly and I went to a small fall festival outside of Columbus. Her son, Miles, got a temporary tattoo and ate too much cotton candy. Holly laughed more than I'd seen in weeks. On the drive back, she looked at me and said, you okay? I nodded. Yeah, for the first time in a long time. A few days later, Melissa sent one final message. I really thought we were just going through something. I thought you'd come back. I replied, that was your first mistake, assuming I'd keep waiting after you closed the door. But I didn't leave. You sent me away. Now, I'm just living like you never expected I could. She never replied again, and I never lost another night's sleep over her. Let me be straight with you. I didn't plan my wedding to get revenge. I didn't send out invitations thinking, I hope she sees this and regrets it. No, I planned it because I finally found peace. And I wanted to share that moment with people who actually stood by me, not people who threw me out and called it growth. But life's funny like that, because peace has a way of attracting the ghosts who never thought you'd escape them. It was a Saturday in mid-April. Sun was out, but not burning. Just a perfect mix of light breeze and warm air. One of those days that almost makes you forget all the times you cried inside a parked truck at 2 a.m. We held the wedding in Zanesville, Ohio, at a family-owned property that belonged to Holly's uncle. Nothing fancy, just a big open field with white folding chairs, string lights, mason jars, barbecue pits, and folding tables covered with checkered cloth. No tuxes, no violin quartet, just denim boots, laughter, and people who'd been through hell but still smiled like they meant it. Holly wore a soft ivory dress that she found at a local vintage shop. It wasn't even meant to be a wedding dress, but when she tried it on, it just felt right. She didn't want diamonds or designer shoes. She wanted to feel like herself. And I wore a charcoal gray suit that I got tailored 2 weeks prior. Nothing flashy, just something clean that fit well. My best man was James, the same guy who gave me his garage when I had nowhere to sleep. He made a toast with a bottle of Dr. Pepper and said, I watched this man sleep on a mattress between a lawnmower and a rusty snowblower. And now he's standing here like a king. That's how you rise, boys. People laughed, and I remember thinking, this is it. This is home, right here. But peace, like I said, doesn't go unnoticed by the past. About halfway through the reception, while people were dancing, grabbing pulled pork sandwiches, and taking Polaroid pictures by the barn, I stepped away to catch my breath. I'm not much of a spotlight guy. I don't love being the center of attention. So I walked a little past the chairs just toward the edge of the field behind the big oak tree. That's when I saw her. At first, I thought it was just someone leaving, maybe a late guest arriving or a neighbor being nosy. But no, it was her, Melissa, standing by a black Hyundai Elantra parked just off the gravel path behind the fence. Sunglasses on, hair up, wearing a navy blouse and skinny jeans. She wasn't crying. She wasn't yelling. She wasn't even holding a phone. She was just watching. My chest didn't tighten. My hands didn't shake. I didn't feel that old anger or heartbreak crawl back up like it used to. I just stood there for a moment, almost curious. She noticed me noticing her, and she didn't turn away. In fact, she walked toward the fence. I met her halfway, about 15 feet from the party. She stood on the outside of the wooden rail. I was on the inside. She looked older, not in a bad way, just different, like someone who hadn't slept well in a while, like someone who didn't laugh out loud as often anymore. For a second, we just looked at each other. Two people who had once shared years, bills, secrets, and beds, now separated by a fence and 1,000 unspoken words. "You look," she started but didn't finish. I tilted my head. "Go ahead. Say it." She gave a half smile. "You look happy." "I am." Silence. She swallowed. "I didn't think you'd actually go through with it." There it was. The honesty. Not, "I didn't think you'd find love again." Not, "I thought we might fix things someday." Just, "I didn't think you'd move on without me." I nodded once, slowly. "You told me I was holding you back," I said calmly. "You told me to leave. I did exactly what you asked." She blinked, looked away for a second, then back at me. "I thought maybe, eventually, we'd figure it out." I stepped forward slightly. Not aggressive, just closer. You don't get to burn the bridge and then act surprised when the other side builds a whole new road. That hit her. She looked down. Her voice cracked when she said, "She's lucky." "Holly." I raised an eyebrow. "She doesn't think of it that way. She doesn't treat love like it's a competition. She just shows up. Every day. No games." Melissa bit her lip, nodded slowly, and looked out at the party. The music was playing something slow now. James's daughter was dancing barefoot on the grass. Holly was laughing with my mom, holding a lemonade jar in her hand. "She loves you," she whispered. "She sees me," I replied. That was the difference. Melissa loved the idea of me, loved the comfort, the security, the certainty. But Holly? Holly saw the man behind the uniform, the one who'd been thrown out, broken, tired, but never bitter. The man who showed up even when no one asked him to. I don't know what Melissa thought would happen. That I'd invite her in? That I'd cancel the vows and give her another chance? That I'd at least cry? I didn't. I just said, "Take care of yourself, Melissa," and turned back toward the music, the light, the life I built. I didn't look back. Later that night, while dancing with Holly under the string lights, she leaned into me and said, "That woman by the fence, that was her, wasn't it?" I didn't lie. I just nodded once. "You okay?" she asked. I smiled, looking around the backyard full of laughter, cornbread crumbs, empty soda cans, and kids chasing fireflies. Better than I've ever been. And that was the truth. Because real revenge isn't screaming, blocking, or dragging someone through the mud. Real revenge is living well, is building peace from the rubble they left behind, and letting them watch, quietly, painfully, from the other side of the fence.